For landlords, by landlords. The Rent Perfect Podcast with David Pickron.
Well, welcome. Today, I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to talk about something that hasn't happened to me really ever, but I've been investing for about 26 years. So I'm going to say this hasn't happened to me in 26 years. Scott, how are you doing today?
Dude, amazing, man. Thank you for having me.
Has this happened to you in the last 26 years?
If you're talking about going to the barber, I go every 3 weeks. I'm not sure.
I never have to go. If you're just listening to this, I am lacking hair, but there is a ton of wisdom in this head. Scotty's got like something you can surf on up there. But so before I tell you what it is, and I'm going to get to it fairly quickly for those of you who want me to get right to the point.
Just jump right in.
Monday morning, we come in and we start going through Arizona eviction records. Okay, so statewide eviction records in Arizona in the month of November. And that month was lower than October. So the news article is evictions are down in Arizona.
Are you saying the media is misleading?
No. I actually love everybody to think that evictions are down,
Yeah.
right? Because when evictions are up, new regulation comes in, right?
Yeah.
But Scotty, what do you think happens every single year from October to November?
Well, luckily, I know what happens every single year because we track this stuff, right?
Yes.
Evictions continue to go down.
Okay. Evictions go down in November. They stay down in December because we are sweet, lovable landlords.
Those compassionate
Right?
landlords, yes.
Not the one that everybody thinks the rich guys who just chase the money.
Right.
So there's proof right there. If anybody ever says, you landlords are, hey, how come there's less evictions in November
Numbers
and
don't
December?
lie, yeah.
Okay, so, but I will tell you in my experience of owning an eviction company here in Arizona, owning a tenant screening company, owning a background check company, right? I can tell you those numbers in November are higher than last November. But in addition to the amount of evictions being filed, which I thought was high for November, the amount of rent, like the dollar amount on those judgments, are things that you are going to have a hard time recovering. They're not $800. They're not $1,200. They're up $3,000, $4,000, right?
Right. That's including all the fees and everything, right?
No, yeah. By the time you go to an eviction and attorney's fees and court fees, and I mean, how do you rebound for that when
this time of year you don't?
Yeah, when January rent's just around the corner.
Yeah.
Right. Or I should say December's rent if we're talking about November's already here. Hey, it's tough out there. And so let's come back to what hasn't happened to me in 26 years,
please.
right? So evictions are high. I got my first NSF check in December on Tuesday. So I come in Monday, I'm going through eviction data. On Tuesday, I was like, ding, hey, the funds weren't in your tenant's account and they weren't able to pay you. It's aggravating. I mean, I speak to a lot of people over the years about NSF checks and how to do them.
The fact that you've had a 26-year run without it happening. Is incredible.
And part of it is because I think I screen,
you screen
my people
really
right
well.
and the way I manage. But obviously, if you go long enough or you get big enough, it's going to happen to you. So what do we do when we get an NSF notice? Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what I did.
Okay, yeah.
But I also want to tell everybody out there, if there were 30 landlords in a room, there's 30 different ways to manage, okay? So with what I do isn't necessarily what everybody else has to do. It's just an option. So I think when I bought my first rental, if I would have got an NSF fee, I would have had a heart attack and had the ambulance come out, right?
You would have listed the property that afternoon. We're done.
Right.
Well, this is not.
Or I would have been so mad I would have called my tenant. What the heck are you doing, right? Now I'm super calm about it, right? It doesn't, I'm upset a little bit. I don't like to have this happen to me. I like to get my money, and it's going to take me more time now dealing with this problem than if the
funds just appeared.
Right? So I was going through my head, and I said, hey, you know what? Let me assume, nice landlord in December. Got my nice hat on, that this was just a mistake. So call the tenant and saying, hey, listen, funds didn't clear on that, and just want to know what's going on, what we can do about it.
What's your plan? Yeah.
You know what? The funds were in there. I mean, we have two accounts, and and she started, talking a little bit about possibly what could happen. And I said, well, listen, it doesn't matter. I reset your rent pay. If you please go in there today, right now, and get that cleared up. Okay. I didn't give her till tomorrow. I didn't give her 2 days.
Not 5 days. Yeah. Okay.
So I reset that. She went in and she went ahead and paid the rent. But what happens now? It's like the 5th of the month, and now there's a $35 NSF fee, and there's like $65 in late fees. So her bouncing that, I always want to say check for some reason, but we're doing wire
insufficient
transfers.
funds. Yeah.
What do you call that? Kick back on the electric funds. But anyways, so the non-sufficient, and anyway, so she paid it, and luckily it cleared, and my problem was solved. But I often think, what if that would have bounced again? Now, I want you to know this. It is a privilege to pay with personal check.
In today's society, for sure.
It's a privilege to use an automatic, funds transfer system where I can take rent from your bank account to my bank account. It is all unsecured. There's no guarantee. But if you show me that you can't handle that privilege 2 times, it no longer is available to you.
Okay.
The sad thing about that is now I have to work harder because I'm going to require certified funds. That means that I'm not going to give them my bank account number to have them go put it right into my bank. I'm just not doing that nowadays. Years ago, I might have, but your bank account is as precious as your Social Security. Right? You need to protect that bank account with online transfers going. People grab your bank account number and your routing number, and they can wreak havoc on you, right? So I'm not giving them my account number. So that means they got to get the check to me somehow, and then I've got to get in my car and run down to the bank with certified funds.
Right.
I guess I've gotten lazy because I used to do that all the time before I started, taking money electronically. And so, anyways, that privilege is now gone, and you have to pay me for 6 months in certified funds before I turned that privilege back on. Some landlords might say, hey, that's long. I'll do it in 2 months or 3 months. But there is a period where I know that you're going to get financially healthy again, because when you have bounced your check or the funds were not in your account 2 times, you're into the 9th, 10th, 11th of the month. Your rent is due again in about 2 weeks.
Right around the corner, right.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you can't get enough money by the 9th or 10th to pay rent that was due 2 weeks ago, I'm a little concerned how you're going to accumulate the money to pay me forward. So I want to see certified funds. That means I go to the old school, rent due by the 1st, late notice starts, notices go out if rent is not paid to start your notice in each state, so you can go to a forcible detainer. It sounds a little tough, but I go quick and I go fast because I have learned over the many, many years of helping people, it rarely gets better. You try to work with them and work with them and work with them, and it rarely, works out. Yeah. It usually ends in either some rent forgiveness or an eviction.
Yeah. Now, and you clearly lay all this out in your lease. Like, there's a provision on this in your lease, so it's crystal clear. They know on day one, here's the rules.
They know, and I should know as a landlord what's in my lease, right?
Yeah.
But this is laid out, so I'm not worried about implementing it and them saying, well, you can't do this. No. This is in your lease.
This is a day one thing you've known about.
But you'll be surprised how many landlords have people sign a lease and then just still willy-nilly their property and not really even know what's in the lease. And so just make sure that the good point is make sure this process is in your lease and make sure it's laid out. And if you want to give them 1 time and then cut off that privilege, if you want to give them 2 times, 3 times, that is up to you. But it is something that you need to think about, because if we're seeing the highest number of NSF returns in Rent Perfect this month than we've ever seen, we don't know if this is a trend yet, but this possibly could be a trend. Now, in this next episode of our podcast, I want you to go ahead and get ready for that one, because we're going to talk about with high evictions, high NSFs, with our properties being on the market for longer than they used to be. I mean, Scott, do you remember the days you'd put your ad on Zillow and you get 35 applications that day?
Right.
We're not seeing that anymore here in Arizona. Now, you might still be seeing that in certain parts of the country, but I have a feeling you're probably nodding your head and saying, we're not seeing that here.
If it's down here, it's likely down there.
Yeah. So we don't want to make this an hour podcast. We're going to go ahead and roll that into our next podcast. We're going to tell you some strategies you can use as we feel like we're going into a little tougher time in 2024 as a landlord and as we look at these statistics and what's going on. And so we look forward to having you then. Please like us, subscribe us. We'll see you on that next episode. And until next time, continue to rent perfect.